Actually, well, there. Now we're recording. See, I knew I forgot.
Oh, darn.
But without further ado, with my little intro, that's all that anyone would have missed from the late record. Sierra, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karsten. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that everyone can see me speaking as well as on the screen. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, for those that don't know who I am, I have done one of these lunch and learns in the past too with Karsten. I've worked with him, but outside of all of that, my name's Sierra Wright, and I'm a registered nutritionist. I'm going to speak on that a little bit more, but today's presentation, I'm a big person when it comes to like following along. So I like kind of creating these slides for people so you can have a better understanding and go at your own pace and have a visual. But it's about reclaiming your health after the holidays. And this is like, obviously just given the time, it's January, we probably had I would say a month or at least a couple weeks where maybe things were a little bit different for us, a little more lack of routine. It's kind of the slower season of winter. So it's just a good time to hit that reset button and to understand, okay, if you're feeling like you need a little reset, or if you just want to understand how to get started, then these are the types of things that we can do and understand those tools so we can feel really good. And this is not just to go into, the next 30 days. It's something to carry on throughout all months of the year. So yeah, I'm Sierra Wright, and I'm a nutritional practitioner and health and nutrition counselor. I have my diploma in sports and fitness nutrition, and my main focus area as well is also gastrointestinal health. So all of those are really like intertwined with each other, and I feel like just kind of the weight behind that is more just to really teach and guide people and educate people on how to eat well, especially those who, love to move, those who take care of their bodies, and also those who may need a little additional support too when it comes to the epicenter of our physical being, which is our gut. And yeah, kind of just the holidays, right? It is a little bit of a time warp. I feel like when it comes to like getting back on track, again, we're all coming at this from different places, right? Maybe we are, an avid athlete. Maybe we're someone who is just looking at understanding a little bit more with food nutrition. But I think it's safe to say that there's always this time that we're going to feel like, hey, we got to get back to things. We got to get back on track. We need a little motivation, or we just want to start. And so with the holidays, it does bring an increase of, like I said, a little bit of a lack of routine. Maybe there's more events. You may or may not had some alcohol, sugary treats, inconsistency in your routine. So those are kind of things where whenever we do something out of our normal or our average when we're feeling pretty good, it's going to do something to our body. And I don't want to say it, but like the holidays are not always the easiest on the nervous system. So that also can bring this kind of different way that our body responds to foods we're eating and the habits. So it kind of feels like we probably just need a little bit of a reset, get back to things. It's no wonder that our body kind of gets a little bit more inflamed during these times too. And so to get back on track, there's certain types of foods, techniques, and stuff that can help our gut microbiome heal, help our energy levels, our digestion. And if it's not really something we're looking at, it definitely can just like increase our overall strength. So again, like it's kind of just really asking yourself, like, what is it that you're looking to get from maybe following a healthier diet? So I wanted to touch on inflammation because, again, I think that like a lot of us think like inflammation may be, a physical swelling or bruising or something that we can really see or is like a noticeable inflammation. But even if we have just like a very mild dehydration or we have a little bit of brain fog, those are considered inflammation in the body. So even speaking, Karsten, with your wrist and kind of regaining that, like there's this inflammation that happens to the tissues when we injure ourselves, and like regaining strength and all of that to make sure we have a diet that is appropriate to help you heal. Those are things that can help like our body get back. Now, I'll use it in reference to just the holidays because that's kind of the theme, but inflammation can also occur when we like go out of our way to do things that again like disrupt maybe the healthy routine we have, or maybe we're not eating as many colors, and maybe we're having more, I like to say the barcode foods, where it's like it's not whole foods and it's just things that like our bodies basically just putting in our body and we're not getting the best physical response from it. Um, if you're someone that's active, and I wanted to keep it on brand for this, a little bit of excess inflammation in the body, it can absolutely hurt stamina and endurance. And I think understanding that, like, how we're going to feel and the energy that represents that will be impaired slightly. So as much as it sounds like it's more on the negative side of things, it's also, there's a lot of foods that can help, lower inflammation in the body. And we'll talk about that in the coming slides. But essentially, if we have excess, these are the things that are going to be reduced. So reducing oxygen delivery to muscles. This is a big one too for females who are really active, because when we have excess inflammation, our oxygen levels and blood supply will affect our iron absorption, which I know is just something I encourage us to kind of look at as women too, just to make sure that, like, that's all kind of, in a good position. It definitely will affect our immune response. And, given the fact it's cold and flu season, I am firsthand someone who has not had the easiest go of being sick this year. But again, it's like, we're going to get sick and we're going to have, periods where maybe our immune system is lacking, and doing what we can to help it, like eating a whole foods diet, which, again, I'll talk about more. But those are the things we actually can do for ourselves to help strengthen it. So, after the holidays, maybe we had a bit more sugar than we're used to. Our immune response is not going to be like at its top level. It can disrupt our glycogen storage. So, some people might be into winter sports and things like that as well, like we were talking about. Tapping into like how much energy preservation and actual energy we can get from that through our glycogen storage is important. It will not be properly stored and be able to utilize if we don't have enough in our storage, and also the right type. So, like, not just junk, not things that are just kind of like, just whatever's on the counter. It does need to be more meticulously thought about. So again, it can also weaken our muscle function and stuff like that. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's just more about like understanding excess inflammation can disrupt these things. Chronic inflammation, so it can strain the cardiovascular system and affect our mental focus. So brain fog this time of year, I think also, like, depending on, I don't know where everyone's from, but if we don't get sunlight all the time, it can also hinder how our mental clarity is going to work and our mental focus and just overall health. So again, these are things that just kind of help our system through the winter months. And to counteract these effects, like, it will improve our endurance as athletes and also just like professional and amateur. But when we adopt anti-inflammatory strategies, which I'll talk about, including a balanced diet, adequate sleep, stress management, and other recovery practices, this also includes movement, which I don't really cover, but just like, the exercises that help our training or what we're kind of working towards, that's the type of stuff that is really important to kind of focus on. So with 4 steps, as far as like what you can kind of be like, how to get back on track. I always like to say, like, step back and reassess, like, what are the 4 things in these categories that you can really focus on. The number one is, physical conditioning. So reassessing your fitness goals. What do you want your year to look like? What does that look like if you gradually build up intensity, and working with a coach? Those are kind of the Coles notes of it all. And then the nutritional reassessing, which is obviously what I'm talking about today, is more reviewing what's working versus what's not working. So I always like to say, like, take a look at like maybe 2024, even the past month, how do you feel? How do you want to feel? What are some of those like goals, whether it be energetic, mental, physical? What does that look like? And what are things that you felt your best doing and not? And I encourage people to write it down. Reducing inflammation, and so like inflammatory foods, which we'll talk about, increasing cleansing foods, and monitoring your hydration levels. Those are like kind of just like increase the good, decrease the inflammatory, and make sure you get enough hydration. It's kind of very simple, but it also is like finding like, hey, like, what kind of foods are good for you and what are your goals? Mental focus. So just talking about this, like writing it down, mindful practices, positive reinforcements, and maybe an accountability buddy. Those are always good. And decluttering your environment. So get rid of what doesn't work in your home, your pantry, and your kitchen area. that's one of the bigger things as well, is like January is definitely a good month to reset. Get rid of the things that you know are like calling your name that maybe you don't need in your pantry anymore. And it's okay to also say goodbye to things that maybe you want, but you know they're not going to get you to feeling your greatest. So, how to kind of tap into lowering inflammation. And you'll hear me talk about inflammation a lot. You'll hear the word detoxification today as well. But I wanted to kind of like give you an understanding of like, you know, if you have excess inflammation, what are the ways to get rid of that? What foods are going to help that? So, tapping into your body's natural cleansing system, like our main filtration, which is our liver, that is going to encourage detoxification. Our body is always detoxing, it does it for us, it's very resilient. The issue that happens though is like when we fill our body with maybe a little bit more stress or foods that have more anti-nutrients or maybe excess inflammation, you know, this can happen for a variety of reasons. Our body will become sluggish. And that's kind of when we see more, maybe more of a slower liver. If you're someone who did drink alcohol over the winter season as well, or over the holidays, these are things that it's just using a little bit of assistance to help your body naturally cleanse faster and more efficiently will not hurt you. It will only help you and get you feeling better faster. So for those, I kind of talk a little bit about detoxing and what that is, but it's good to understand it too, because it'll put the foods in a better kind of representation of why they're important. But it's a process where metabolic process where toxins and excess hormones, they're converted to less harmful substances and they're eliminated. That's through waste, urine, sweat, things like that. It occurs in two phases, and it is one of the best things you can really do to encourage good liver health is incorporating foods that support this process and support the health of your body and your liver. And also, if anyone has questions like along the way, I'm going to do a Q&A at the end, but feel free to jump in the chat as well and like type something out. I can answer it at the end. And if it's like you're just like dying to ask, you can unmute yourself, but I will do a Q&A at the end. So the word detox, I feel like kind of sounds a little bit intense for some people. And maybe we think of like juice cleansing and these things that are like really like, you know, rigid and different. But the body, like I said, it's always detoxing. And it's when toxins accumulate and they can be, you know, you don't have to be actually ingesting what you would consider toxins to have a little bit of a backup. Again, it can happen when we just have excess inflammation. Like even a lack of sleep can cause a little bit of a disruption in our body's patterns. So when we have that overindulgence or higher amounts of stress, then it will impact the digestive system. So just like getting back on track with some habit formation and foods that'll encourage that, this is kind of the process of it. You go through two phases, quick kind of like understanding basically the goal in the first phase. And there's no real timeline where the detox actually happens, but 2 weeks is what most people suggest is enough time because you go through two phases. And the first phase usually happens in about 10 days. So I kind of want to explain that just because when it comes to eating healthier, like you can have a healthy meal, but if you go right back after 2 days, your body is still not really going to have a fighting chance at actually doing like a bit of a reset to it. So to make toxins like more water soluble, so they can be excreted is the whole idea of the first phase. And you do that through breaking down in your liver, encouraging different compounds that come from food specifically and some supplementation if you wanted. It creates a reaction where essentially they are water soluble and you get excreted out. So the second phase is where they become neutralized and then they get excreted. So it's like just kind of, you know, there's certain foods that are found specifically in cruciferous vegetables. I'll talk about that they have sulforaphane, they have these compounds that actually add these antioxidants to the body and these amino acids that help attach to toxins and excrete them. So it may sound, maybe it's not overly complicated for some individuals, but I think it's important to kind of know that like eating healthy whole foods is totally awesome. And then focusing on these ones that help that liver function and help the excretion is actually really encouraged when it comes to getting back on track. Because when we get back on track, we feel better, we're more motivated, we're going to want to stick with it, and it works faster. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like all our body can kind of do to go through its waste management system is incorporating more of the stuff. So yeah, phase one, phase two basically supports the detox and then supports making water soluble so we can excrete it. The foods we want to focus on for phase one is foods that are rich in antioxidants, fiber, and specific nutrients, which I list on the second page here. And then the second phase, we want to focus on foods that are rich in sulfur, amino acids, and some antioxidants that are similar to the first. That basically looks like, in like just like a little bit of a notes here, is the first phase is lots of colorful foods, lots of plant foods, cruciferous vegetables, citrus, stuff like that. The second phase is like more eggs, some more poultries, things that have these amino acids that actually help basically bind to things and excrete them out, and all those colorful foods. So with the detoxing foods, and I say detoxing again, it's really just food that is amazing for us, but it has these specific kind of producing key antioxidants that help the liver function. So cruciferous vegetables, what kind of falls in that category is broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage. These are amazing for the body. They help boost our liver enzymes. They again have that sulforaphane in them. So when you're looking at fighting any kind of like excess inflammation and wanting to encourage better digestion by like promoting bile flow, and all of these things are really important when it comes to just flushing the body and feeling good. I would say like creating recipes, which I also am going to provide Karsten with, so you can send everyone some recipes that have all this stuff. But essentially, this is going to be really crucial for just like getting the body in that process. Same with leafy greens. Leafy greens are incredible. They have chlorophyll. So again, it helps the liver function. It helps detoxify the body. Now, detoxification isn't like something that you have to like aim for. Again, it's about incorporating. What you'll kind of notice here is a lot of just like whole foods will really give you the results you're looking for, and to focus on a diet that is really just like prominently single food ingredients. So leafy greens, so like spinach, Swiss chard, arugula, dandelion, those are amazing for the body. These specifically work with the liver as well. And berries. So berries, like this time of year too, something that's really important is like, creating smoothies or breakfast and stuff like that. Like fresh berries are not necessarily in abundance right now. It's winter. I wouldn't say going to the store and getting fresh berries is A, financially friendly, or B, going to give you the best results. The main reason is that they're so sensitive, a lot of the vitamins and minerals that are found in berries, especially the vitamin C. So actually buying frozen berries is way more efficient than actually getting fresh this time of year. And I like to tell people that just because you get more for your dollar value, but you also are able to get more of these antioxidants. So if you need something that's like thawed and fresh kind of, then just thawing them from frozen is a super good way to kind of have these like fresh berries that you can add to foods. But they are rich in antioxidants that help protect the liver, and they're good all year round. They're rich in vitamin C, which again, if we're supporting our immune function and stuff, that's also what we want to look at. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, those are great. Buying frozen, they're harvested at their peak ripeness, and then they're frozen, attacking their nutrients in that moment. So as long as they haven't been thawed and, on a shelf for a week, they're going to be better than they would be if they were in a clamshell fresh. Um, so ginger. So like adding, kind of thinking ahead of time, even like just while I'm talking here, I mean, like, okay, so like how could you incorporate all of these things like, into your diet? Like having ginger helps promote the digestion and bile production, which is all important for liver function. Creating like a smoothie, if you wanted to, even just having more of like berries and ginger and some water, coconut water, things like that, and kind of getting these nutrients into your body in an efficient way. You can always add greens, like a handful of kale or chard or spinach to the smoothie as well, and you have this nutritional powerhouse that essentially can act as like a little bit of a key forward to just helping the body reset itself. um Now, cucumbers are really good as well because they do act as a natural diuretic. So, for those that are thinking like just like even something to snack on or adding to a smoothie or adding to a salad, I know it's not that time of year, but again, these are the things that I want everyone to know for all year round. It's like what kind of foods are going to help the body get back on track, or when you need it, those are really, really important too, just to kind of understand how can you kind of get the body feeling better. Um, Avocados are incredible. So they're rich in glutathione. So that's going to be an antioxidant specifically. It's one of the most powerful ones, to be honest, when it comes to just helping liver function and helping the body detoxify. And it's so powerful that, I mean, most people would even supplement it secondary if you're going through like a major overhaul or cleanse, or if you're going through something where it is going to provide some significant changes to the body. Like some people who have radiation and stuff will start taking this as a supplement to help protect their body. So when we think of foods that have this, we want to encourage that in the diet. So like avocados, focusing on having that as your fat source, specifically because it's a monounsaturated fatty acid, which essentially is going to be one of the fats we want to focus on for not only just heart health, but also just like allowing the body to get proper fuel to the brain. It's definitely a top one. Flax seeds and chia seeds. So again, like thinking of like, hey, how can you add that? Yeah, you can add it to a smoothie, you can add it to your oats, kind of keeping things simple to kind of get back on track as like what kind of foods are going to be good for what and why. Uh, so turmeric is a really incredible one as well. So adding those compounds that is found in like the active part of turmeric, which is curcumin, it has these major anti-inflammatory properties. And so therefore it supports our liver function. Think about adding it to like soups. You can definitely create like teas and stuff out of it. Some people will take supplements because it's going to be way more concentrated per gram. Those are really great ways to just again like boost that anti-inflammatory property. This is also information too, like if you're thinking, yeah, I'm talking about just kind of getting back on track, but let's say it's even like in the heart of summer and things happen, or maybe injuries may occur. These are the types of foods, especially like turmeric with these anti-inflammatory properties specifically, that will help your body get back to healing and also help overall just like, yeah, achieve a little bit more of a happier body. Lemon and lime, so vitamin C, it definitely helps the detox pathways and encourages hydration. So the hydration part of things is really crucial when it comes to like getting back on track. I feel like sometimes we get like maybe off of it a little bit. Maybe it's not hot. Maybe we're not craving as much water this time of year. So it's like, staying with like if you need something warm, like, herbal teas is a great way to do that. Also, like adding in some of this, like maybe lemon to water so it flavors it a little bit. And doing things that are going to kind of get you back to that hydration, and then eating foods that are still going to be rich in a lot of hydration minerals too. Green tea. So if you're someone who drinks caffeine, if you're looking for something that has a little bit more of a boost in antioxidants, green tea has specific ones that are incredible for assisting in liver health. And it is like, as far as just like energy production goes and like the studies that have been found with it, as long as you're having, a mild amount and not going to like drown yourself in green tea, it is absolutely healthy for your body. And it can provide you with some antioxidants and maybe give you a little energy boost. The only thing I would say is like be kind of cautious of when you drink it, because even though it's healthy, I wouldn't have it at like 5 p.m. I would say like, the morning or very early afternoon is like a good time to kind of introduce that if it's not something you're used to. Apples. So apples is like, a turnkey snack. I think it's like also not to forget like why they're good, but the pectin, it's a type of fiber that helps eliminate toxins from the digestive tract. So not only is it great for like our gut health and everything, we're like all of these foods specifically help the whole process of getting like your whole body back together as far as after having an overindulgent month or maybe a stressful period. And artichokes, which is not as common, but again, you can always, understanding this, sometimes you'll see in superfood products or, packaged foods, they'll add in artichoke powder. So the reason is because they're super incredibly rich in antioxidants. They help the bioproduction, and it also helps detoxify fats, which is really important because if we can't break down fats, then what ends up happening is we end up with mucus sometimes in our stool or an excess in our body. And those are the things that, or little signs we may get as indication that our body's not doing so great. It's like, has a little bit of excess inflammation that's dealing with something. And beets. So beets, I think if you were on the last Lunch and Learn, I'm a big advocate for beets. I feel like there's so many good benefits for them, especially if we're thinking about, for our endurance and our athlete side of things, for just helping our oxygen production. But it is amazing for the body, especially when it comes to liver function. So not only does it stimulate bile production, which again is really important for our liver, but it also is something where if we're thinking like we need a little bit of um, a little bit of grounding types of foods, like something we can maybe like gently cook or incorporate more colors. Beets are something that's just rich in all of these antioxidants, really. They're incredible and they're more seasonal for more of the North Coast here. West Coast, sorry. The garlic's amazing. It activates detoxifying enzymes in the liver and promotes the elimination. So, like garlic and onion, they both kind of do that. They are super rich in sulfur compounds. So, again, when we think about sulfur and like sulforaphane, which is coming from cruciferous vegetables, garlic and onions are also really rich in that. And I encourage people to add them a lot to their food. I know some people get a little bit sticky with them as far as the digestively, but if you can do them, like amping them up. There's also garlic supplement pills that some people tolerate more if you can't do a lot of garlic. That a lot of people find really helpful, especially if you're doing more of like a cleanse or a little bit of an overhaul and want to get back into a better routine. It could be helpful. And carrots. So again, another kind of more seasonal food supports the liver health and all that processing. So I know that's a lot of talking, a lot of words. I'm going to kind of give like a PDF of like more different types of foods and stuff of that. But, you know, I think the other question is like, okay, now you have all this information is like, what kind of foods, how do you start? Right. So I would always recommend like increasing the foods I just talked about in your diet is a great way to start. You can do it simply. You can steam some broccoli to go alongside your chicken. You don't need to do tons of fancy overhaul meals. I think incorporating them just like as part of your own diet, not only just now for 10, 14 days, but like just like in general, because all of this happening over time, the less we would have to do it and feel maybe some maybe possibility of like a negative side effect of like, overindulgence. Our body just is like faster to get back on track. Also speaking for like the upcoming season, whether it be the snow season or more of the sports in the summer and stuff, we're looking at how can we help our body feel its best and be in the best shape if we're wanting to race or we're wanting to compete or we're wanting just to have recreational enjoyment. So start by consuming these in, different meals and snacks and stuff like that. Steaming them alongside, adding kale to a smoothie. That's kind of something if you reevaluate what your current diet looks like, ask yourself, how can you start getting these in your diet? Adequate hydration, like I was talking about, is super key. Herbal teas, like mineralized water. I kind of emphasize mineralized water because a lot of us actually we have a lot of filtration systems out there, but what happens is we end up stripping away a lot of those trace minerals that are really important too. So some people you might be, aware of like re-adding minerals to water, sometimes it's in the form of electrolytes, but there's actually even just like trace minerals you can add. That's like, there's no flavorings, there's no nothing. It's just the re-adding of minerals. And it can help the body retain a lot more of the proper hydration and fluid balance. Whoa, this is exciting. I don't know what's happening there. All right, celebration. Okay, so we like that. We like mineralized water. um, and pure cold juices. So depending on where you live, maybe you got a juice bar down the road or you have a juicer, it might be that time to like pull it out, juice some beets, kind of getting back onto like what kind of maximum amount of nutrients you can get in your body. But it can just be as simple as just monitoring your hydration levels. That is a huge place to start, and it's a great way to get into that like habit formation that really comes from needing a reset after like something like the holidays. um, and focus on consuming a whole foods diet. So adequate amounts of quality protein. So I know we're talking about vegetables and stuff mostly, but quality protein, having a little bit more of diversity with the types. So sometimes we always favor like chicken breast, right? But chicken thighs actually have more nutrients. There's different types of nutrients. They're higher fat. But it is at the end of the day good to have a blend of everything, because when we have more diversity, our body has more of a chance to get different types of nutrients. And that's really what we're looking at is like, broadening our nutrients span. So we're able to get our tanks like back filled up, maybe after a little bit of depletion or just like trying to get feeling better. Wild salmon, wild fish, depending where you're at, there might be a little bit more of availability than others, but definitely incorporating some of those like fatty fishes in the diet. So super rich in omega 3s, that's super incredible for inflammation. Pasteurized eggs. So when I was talking about like the detox phases and stuff, the sulfur, as we know, when you make hard boiled eggs, smells sometimes like sulfur. That is actually the compound that we're looking for when it comes to helping the detox phase. So it's not to eat hard boiled eggs, but the compounds that are found in eggs are really incredible. So including those in a diet, if you're able to have them, they're amazing. They're superfoods. They're rich in incredible fats as well. Obviously monitoring like how many we're going to have at one time, but for the most part, 2 to 3, 4 eggs sometimes is very healthy depending on the individual. Lentils, chickpeas, so those types of plant proteins and stuff like that is also something to look at. We don't want to overdo it with protein. I feel like protein's having a huge moment right now. So also just like recognizing like if you consume a whole foods diet with a diverse array of things, that's usually when you're going to be feeling great. And techniques, like kind of just getting into like the rhythm of it all. So like, eating a protein rich breakfast helps stabilize your blood sugar levels. So if that's kind of something to focus on, like a technique of like how to get back into a good habit, start eating a protein rich breakfast. Add something colorful alongside it, like berries or smoothie or something like that's going to encourage more of that colorful dynamic to your plate because those are where those micronutrients work their best and a lot of anti-inflammatory properties come into play. Incorporating vegetables into your daily snacks. So this one's the interesting one because I feel like sometimes when we think about snacks, like especially if they're on the go snacks, a lot of it's, nuts and seeds, which are great as well, but sometimes they can be they just lack more of those supportive nutrients that I'm really talking about here with like, yeah, detoxification and just getting the body feeling great. So if you're able to add vegetables to a snack at some point, that's something that I would always encourage, including like just raw veggies or adding like, colorful foods to like a homemade hummus. That's a really good kind of little simple technique to do to boost things easily. Replacing sugary drinks with less sugar or no sugar. So this may not be for every person, but just understanding how much sugar is in food is something that is actually quite eye-opening. Even the healthiest of foods, so we would consider is like, I'll just use an example that I think is really commonly known as like, oat milk or these like nut-free or sorry, not nut-free, dairy-free alternative milks. For one, with all the other ingredients aside, it's actually astounding how much sugar they add to these. And I think it's important because even though it may not have dairy, it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthier. And just understanding where sugar's coming from, that is a huge one because inflammation definitely loves it loves sugar. And so if you're going to have a high sugar diet, you're going to have more inflammation, and that's just kind of the proof in the science. So I think understanding not to be fearful of sugar, but getting your sugar sources from like whole food sources like fruits, berries, small amounts of honey and maple. Those are the types of things that'll actually give you a little more nutrients to your body and energy too. It's amazing for the body, but just to understand, like, in maybe instead of having a latte in the morning, that's when you switch your kind of habit formation and end up going for something that's a little bit more clean and simple. As far as like tight on time, because this is like one that I think is really interesting. A lot of people want to eat healthier, but then all of a sudden life happens and, everything kind of hits the fan. So if you're tight on time, I encourage people like instead of saying, okay, I just can't do it, finding those challenges and working with them instead of against them is a huge way when it comes to creating better habits, especially after, significant events and stuff like that. So if you have to buy like for like organic frozen bags of carrots that are already cut to save you time, or like butternut squash or things that are you kind of want to make with, but you just don't have the time to cut, do it, because once you start doing it and you get in the habit of it, you will be more prone to go grabbing the bag of carrots and chopping them and peeling them 2 months down the road. And that's the thing, is that everything we do now will matter in a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. And so if you are tight for time, instead of not doing it, ask yourself, like, what can you do? Like, what do you have? What can you do? Maybe it might even mean like getting pre-prep veggies and fruits and stuff and just kind of starting. That could be, an anchoring place. And something to kind of note as well is like something simple, just as far as like creating a healthier environment for yourself, is that if you consume something sweet, like even fruit, but just more just like something sweet. If you have protein first, so that's why starting the day with protein can be really crucial. It will help your body manage blood sugar regulation way better. And so the charts that I've seen for like glycemic index spikes and loads and stuff, how it actually works with the body that's consumed something with proteins and a small amount of fat is very different than if we just have it on an empty stomach. So that also kind of emphasizes my whole like sugary drink thing, is that sometimes if we have drinks, we usually are eating something with them. It's just alone. And our blood sugar takes us on a crazy wild roller coaster ride. And why that is so important when we're trying to get back on track is like, if we're going to do this little dance, our inflammation, our cortisol levels, any kind of physical goal that we have for ourselves and stuff will be stalled, or it will be inflamed. And those are kind of just things to kind of pay attention to as far as like the techniques go. So I don't know if this is really that clear, but here's just kind of like an idea of a 5-day kind of meal plan. But like, starting your mornings with something like zucchini, mushroom, and egg breakfast. So you could pre-prep, chop mushrooms, zucchini, and stuff, and have it ready to go. But some eggs, and avocado on the side. So you have a little bit of a kind of variety there. You start your day with something that's protein rich and you have good amounts of nutrients. It also has, again, like all of the compounds I was talking about are incorporated throughout this plan. Strawberry hemp protein smoothie for a snack. These are really easy to be made ahead of time, as far as like preparing things in containers, getting yourself set up, creating that habit. All you got to do is add liquid in the morning. So you can have that all kind of set up. Chicken and cauliflower rice soup. So again, this could be more of a stew setup. This could be a soup setup. These are just kind of ideas of incorporating different types of things in the diet, but it has turmeric, carrots, cauliflower, chicken. So it has all of those nutrients to help the body kind of get kickstarted again. And obviously kind of complementing this time of year being a little bit cooler. Having an apple, so the pectin. The hummus dippers is just something super simple. But again, like if you can make your own hummus, amazing. If not, get a quality one that uses olive oil. But the raw carrots, raw veggies, again, snacking on something that has that textural crunch, and then also something that's just really, really simple to kind of get back to like starting. You don't need to spend hours in the kitchen making tons of different stuff when you can really create some simple stuff just to get back to feeling good. Roasted chicken and beets and broccoli, or sorry, Brussels sprouts. So again, those cruciferous vegetables, the beets, the chicken, and some brown rice. Like that is a 1-pan tray recipe that I'll give people. That's super easy. It's very tasty, and it has all those nutrients I'm talking about. And so kind of just like, again, it may not be your go-to, but it's something where if you follow these types of foods and incorporate more of them, your body's going to get back to feeling good. And then lemon and ginger tea. And then I have another couple different recipes like salmon, broccoli, different things, mashed chickpea and sauerkraut sandwich, just things that are kind of going to make more sense for like reality and not too fluffy, I'd like to say, as far as foods go, but they're simple and it's a good little reset. So I'll give everyone these recipes. I feel like that is probably, oh, I cruised through that. Okay, good. We're on track this time. Okay. I can't hear you, Carson. I see you.
Nice work. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I
Um,
totally cruised through that a little faster than I thought, but last time we
oh,
went
it's great.
over. So I was like, I want to make sure I don't do that again.
15 minutes for questions is perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, Scott, you've got a question. You can
Yeah, so I hear a lot about beets, eh? And I just personally can't stand them. But so what would you suggest? Like I would love to incorporate them in my diet. I just can't deal, right?
Yeah.
Like it, shred in a salad maybe, so it gets covered up, or
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, like especially if you're using it for more for like athletic purposes and stuff like that, you can get beet powder. So beet powder is really easy to be incorporated. You can do it just in water, but if you don't want the taste, you want to kind of mask it, then like getting in more of like a regular smoothie rotation can be easy. So pairing it with like raspberries or something that has a little bit more of that, like, yeah, that's a really easy one. A lot of people don't like beets. So that's a good question. I think more people here resonate than you think. And again, that's the thing is like as preferences, like we kind of make that choice, but a beet powder I'd definitely recommend.
right. Um, I have other questions, so I'll just go unless
Mhm.
other people have questions. I don't want to just monopolize it.
Yeah, go ahead. And then, yeah, if someone has a question, you can put it in chat, or I think there's a raise your hand function too. So then I can kind of see and we can kind of get to you. And I also have some questions. So, yeah.
Okay. Um, what are your thoughts about hydration drinks with no sugar but like with salt? Like, um, there's a product that I use called Relight. Where I mean, I I'm worried like I read all the ingredients to make sure it doesn't have sugar, but like I don't know what else they might like. You think there'd be concerns about that?
Would just like concerns that there's no sugar or concerns
Well,
that it's
no,
just
like there's a sugar additive or some different thing.
yeah, I think again, it's kind of like to assess, like, reviewing the ingredients that it has, also understanding what you're supplementing for, right? There's different types of electrolyte beverages that I think are for different types of individuals and different types of events or sports. So it's like if you're using something more on a daily basis, just kind of maintain hydration and mineral level, then I would look at that and be like, that's probably safe to say okay. But the sodium levels and other nutrients and minerals, they are so vastly different that like also paying attention to like how much is in each one, what are you doing it for? We tend to not need to have like tons of electrolytes if we're just kind of more sedentary for the most part, Monday to Friday. We just need to have a proper mineralization going, which can be done very easily through like a whole foods diet and some supplementation if we need. When we're more active or we're training, that is when you would want to look at like how much electrolytes you're using, what do they have, and again, I think also like sugar is necessary as well in some degree for sure for the transportation of minerals. So there's like becomes a certain place where like our body actually needs sugar to get those trace minerals to where they need to go. So sometimes sugar free isn't actually the best option depending on what kind of training we're doing. And I
Yeah.
know that's not like a direct question or answer, but it's kind of like yeah, reassessing kind of like what it is you're using it for and making your own judgment call based on that.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, totally good. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
and then you kind of talked about detoxing in stages, and I really appreciated that. But like in terms of stress, like stress, can come frequently and in waves, right? So, I mean, like how do you use nutrition to combat stress in those moments?
Like staying on track or using like food choices that will help your nervous system.
Yeah, I think I don't have a problem so much with staying on track. It's more like, is there anything else I could be doing to combat my physiological response to stress from a nutritional standpoint?
There's definitely some foods that help with like cortisol regulation and everything. I think again though, it's not just one thing kind of does all. Yeah, there's so many things we need to complement alongside nutrition when it comes to stress specifically because as much as food is very helpful in high stress environments or higher cortisol or adrenal gland, they call it adrenal gland fatigue, which I know isn't actually the real term, but when we're feeling just kind of overall burnt out, so there's foods that will help that. A lot of them are actually the ones I spoke about today. Again, it just kind of works on our adrenal system. But looking into other resources, like more ones that tap into more of our vagus nerve and more of that parasympathetic response. And that could be more through recovery or meditation techniques and things like that. Those tend to be more backed and then pairing that with a healthy diet.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Carson, I'll let you go, so I'm not monopolizing time.
No worries. I mean, mine were pretty quick of like Sierra, you mentioned like for hummus, like I'm probably in the boat of someone who'll never make his own hummus. I'll
Oh, come
buy
on, Carson.
it.
Come on. We don't,
I
I don't
know,
believe
right?
that.
Lazy guy.
I
I'm
don't
also the
believe
person
that.
that would buy frozen pre-cut vegetables too.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like, what are some brands that you like? And obviously, there's the one that I can think of that's in almost every grocer that has like a green lid, if I recall it right, or something like that. But they have a ton of different flavors.
Yeah.
But is there any brands that you're like, oh, I really rate this one, or I would stay away from these ones?
So you know what, brands, I actually on the top of my head don't know the names of them, but I
Okay.
can add this so you can add it to everyone else's thing after. I'll do a little research on that. What I would say though, when I look for hummus, when I'm buying it in stores,
Yeah.
is I look out for ones that are using olive oil versus canola oil or other seed oils,
Mhm.
because when it comes to like just how our body's going to process that and the benefits it has from it, olive oil, it just outstands canola oil, as far as even inflammatory molecules and stuff in our body. So that's going to be one I look for. And then, of course, organic is going to be encouraged, just as far as getting more like quality clean ingredients. There's many hummuses out there as well that add a lot of preservatives just because it lasts longer on the shelf, right? So just kind of like looking at the ingredients, seeing if there's anything funky. But those would be my two biggest things. As far as brands go, I don't really know where everyone's from, so I don't know if we would have the
Right.
same like options. But I will give a couple
I
that
think
I
that
can quickly
even
just do.
the looking out for like, yeah, if all of a sudden you see
Yeah,
canola oil, there's your invitation to put it back
yeah.
on the shelf and find one that's olive oil. I think that's great.
I do want to actually just say though, like hummus is one of the easiest things to make. And I think it's more intimidating than it is actually not, because you put it in a blender, you add everything that you need to it, and then you hit go. And it's like making a smoothie, realistically. It's
I
literally
mean,
as
yeah, I
easy as a
get that.
smoothie. But
A
I just
question in
encourage
the
people, you
chat
know?
that we can quickly add in as well.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you speak to recommended protein intake for master athletes and strategies to fuel on a daily basis to get enough? That's the question.
Okay. The recommended protein intake is really, it is different for everyone. But when you're looking at like how much protein to get, if you're someone who is super active and you're training a lot, then I believe the number for most people right now is 1.8 to 2.2 per kilogram. Now that wavers on the higher side for those who are super active and is looking to have that muscle repair, because again, it is dependent on how much people are going to give like energetic output, you know, what kind of training you're doing. I feel like it's interesting to find your exact number, and it may change throughout the year too. So kind of like setting that out. So strategies to fuel and get enough of the protein every day is that when we're looking at going above and beyond more of your average kind of protein intake. So I always like to say like, you know, supplementing protein because you are more of a master athlete or looking for more of that expert level intake, then you have to strategize for it. And that might look like planning ahead with protein powders or supplementing with some form of, like a protein supplement to some form. It would have to be paying attention to how much protein you're getting at each meal and also creating snacks that are protein rich. So it is about like I always say, like just like reevaluating, kind of collecting some data as far as like what your current diet looks like, seeing where you're at on your average day and what number you're hitting. Is that close to what you need? Is it not close to what you need? And how you kind of find your protein intake, there's a few different ways you can find it, but one, I mean, you can always work with a person that can find it for you. You can also calculate it based on like what activity levels you're doing, your weight, your height, and there's different kind of calculators you can find for that. But then you really have to factor into like, you know, if you wear a watch and you can kind of track how many calories you burn, you can kind of watch your heart rate and stuff like that. That'll also kind of speak to that number. But the biggest strategy would just be reassess what you are at, see where you have to get to, and how can you change what you're currently doing. I think one of the easiest ways to strategize to make sure you get enough is focus on your breakfast getting enough, because a lot of people don't at breakfast. I think it's easy to kind of have chicken and have more like kind of meats and stuff throughout the day. But if you find a couple good breakfast options and snack options that have a quality amount of protein, it is quite easy to get anywhere between 140 to 200 grams of protein, depending on your number per day.
Right. No, great.
I hope that answered your
Anyone
question.
anyone else have questions? Scott, do you have another one or anything?
No, you go ahead, dude.
No, mine. You got another one, Scott?
Yeah, sorry, I'll go back through my
Uh,
notes. Sorry.
okay, I'll
Um,
jump in while you do this. My name is Nick.
Hey,
I'm
Nick.
curious about your thoughts as to like consistency versus diversity. And what I mean by that is I can be pretty good if I eat like same thing for breakfast and lunch and maybe dinner varies a little bit more. But then it's hard for me to hit on all the veggies and everything you discussed today. So how should I think
Mm-hmm.
about that?
Yeah, I love that question because that's something that comes up a lot actually in just when I speak to people. So both are important. Consistency is important and diversity. And how to rotate that is I always like to suggest you can follow the same kind of recipes for 2 weeks and then change it up. And it doesn't need to be drastic changes. Like I'll use an example of like you like oats for breakfast. Okay, you can follow that. You can have oats for breakfast, but getting different types of fruits in your oats or different types of seeds or different types of milk or a yogurt or something like that, and changing that up in the recipe alone can help that nutritional diversity. The same with kind of like bowls or sandwiches or whatever it is that you're kind of creating, changing up the vegetables and stuff every 2 weeks. It gives people enough time to create a habit because consistency is important for A, seeing results, B, feeling your best, but C, also just like getting into the rhythm of things. And then when it comes to like actually, you can eat the healthiest things. Like I guess humans, we love going to the store and getting apples, almonds, and eggs. And then if we do that for an entire year, we're missing out on all the nutrients from pears and cashews and just tofu or something like that. So it is important to do both, but focusing for 2 weeks at a time, and you can always go back the next month and just kind of like, making it so it's realistic for you. That would be something I would say and encourage. And then trying new foods. We tend to like get really stuck with like, we like the same kind of, let's say, beans or something or the same vegetable. And while there's some that may have more nutrition per gram, so we think, oh, we always need to go for those ones, it doesn't mean it has all the nutrients. And that's when we want to make sure we're not going to get any deficiencies from just eating the best every time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
well, I remember my other one.
Nice.
Sorry. So you mentioned in the recipes lemon and ginger tea. Is that something that you make on your own?
You can easily do that on your own. I would say, like, if we're looking for the medicinal more properties of it, then making it on your own is what I would have. The ones that come in tea bags tend to be just flavorings and a small amount of ginger. But what you can do is you can just get a ginger root. You can cut it, into like thin slices, and you can cut a half a quarter of a lemon, put it into a mug, and add hot water. And then you let it steep for 5, 10 minutes, and it's as easy as that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
One last one for me, because it's just again one that I personally use a fair bit, is the oat milk thing. So I've noticed that brand that probably majority of people buy for oat milk, they have now a no sugar added one, which is the one that I generally lean towards. Um, but I guess I've always just, yeah, since I've kind of cut dairy generally out of my diet because it doesn't agree with me. Are you finding like, or is that no sugar added one kind of in a better realm, or is it still like one of those things of like, be aware that it's still high in sugar and kind of factor that into your sugar intake throughout your day?
It's a good question because yes, it is. It's going to be better than added sugar. I think just like naturally, the sugar that's found in the amount on it is coming from the oats. The issue that I've seen in studies done on oat milk specifically is that, like, and it's again, this is something that when we're pairing it with protein or fat and other things, it won't change our blood sugar regulation as much or dramatically.
Hmm.
But when we have oat milk lattes in the morning, or we have oat milk, in coffee, or with just oats or something like that, it actually spikes our glycemic index quite high. So our blood sugar goes on a bit of a roller coaster ride. And that's also because oats are incredible for our body. But when we do a processing where we're actually removing the digestive matter of it, it's just left with the liquid essentially of the oat milk. That ends up not doing our body as benefits as it does with all the soluble fiber that's found in the actual oats. So what I would say is, like, pair it with something that's going to be good. It is a better option, but there's also different types of ingredients that are added to oat milk. So it's like sometimes it's oat milk and then it's like, lots of different kind of ingredients or preservatives. And those are things I would say, just like, it's not to be fearful of it, it's to know what's in it and then make your choice. There's also some that literally just have oats and water. And those ones actually tend to be the highest, I find, in sugar, which is interesting. But I think it's because there's not as much filler. So it's just per gram. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, only 1 minute over. So I think we did really
perfect.
great. Anyone have any last minute question you want to get in? Anyone? And then again, just to preface, like, you can reach out to Sierra at any time, and I guess she'll kind of pass me on some recipes, and I'll email that out in a follow-up newsletter that will have this recording, plus we can have like some of the documents. And I don't know, do you mind